I want to thank all of you for your distinguished service and leadership to our country. General Austin, in your opening testimony, you talked about Iran, and you said that they're having a destabilizing effect on the region. And in fact, there's no indication that they are following a different path than they have previously. Well, we know in press reports just this week, in fact, Tuesday, that Iran, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, test-fired several ballistic missiles from silos across the country and defying both recent U.S. sanctions. And of course, this follows on after the JCPOA was signed, the ballistic missile tests that they did in October and November of this year. DNI Clapper has testified before this committee that that would be their preferred method for delivering a nuclear weapon. And are you concerned about their continuing pursuit of testing ballistic missiles?
I am, Senator.
And what are the implications of that?
Well, certainly we hope that the JCPOA will prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon in the near to midterm and forever, hopefully, but this is something we'll continue to watch.
But clearly the JCPOA is not continuing deterring them on the ballistic missile program. Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree with that, Senator, and what I would say is that what we and the people in the region are concerned about is that they already have overmatch with numbers of ballistic missiles. The people in the region remain concerned about their cyber capability, their ability to mine the straits, and certainly the activity of their Quds forces, which we see malign activity not only throughout the region but around the globe as well. So there are a number of things that lead me to personally believe that their behavior is not, they haven't changed any course yet, and this is something we'll continue to watch.
Well, I would argue that clearly the sanctions the administration did put in place, which I've said from the beginning are pathetic and weak, are having absolutely no impact, given that they are now continuing to test ballistic missiles. And I would hope that we would up our game and impose real tough sanctions on Iran on their ballistic missile program. I wanted to follow up on an important question, both General Rodriguez and General Votel. This is something I've actually asked both your predecessors about, and my concern is if we capture Ayman al-Zawahiri or al-Baghdadi tomorrow, where will we detain these individuals under long-term law of war detention, most importantly to interrogate them so we can find out all that we need to know about al-Qaeda and ISIS. And as I asked your predecessor, going back to 2011, I asked General Ham, your predecessor in AFRICOM, what would happen if we tomorrow captured a member of al-Qaeda in Africa? And you know what he told me? He said, I'm going to need some lawyerly help on answering that one. I also asked the same of Admiral McCraven, your predecessor, General Votel, and he said to me that it would be very helpful if there was actually a facility that was designated for long-term law of war detention and interrogation. So I guess my question to both of you is tomorrow, if we capture these individuals, given the phenomenal work that the men and women who serve underneath you do every day, where are we going to interrogate them? Do you know that? Do you know what you would do with them, especially if we want to have a long-term interrogation of them?
Senator, in my experience, as we looked at operations where we were actually going to detain somebody, we have had a plan in place before we actually conducted the operation for how we were going to potentially detain them and what their legal disposition would be, whether that was back into the U.S. courts.
So, General, we just recently captured someone in ISIS, and as I understand it, they're being held short-term, and then they're going to be turned back to the Kurds. So what about long-term detention? You would agree that long-term interrogation was quite helpful, for example, in gathering the information we needed to get bin Laden? That's what worries me. What do we do in a long-term setting? Do we know?
I would agree that there is a requirement for long-term detention, Senator.
And do we know where that would be now?
I don't know. That is a policy decision that I think is being debated.
I think it's a policy decision that has basically never been made under this administration. It's one that has been left up in the air, which means it's left up in the air in a way that I think undermines our national security interests. And I think that you all need to know what would happen tomorrow, given the great work that the men and women who serve underneath you. We hope they capture these individuals and we interrogate them when we find out what they know so that we can prevent attacks on this country and obviously continue to dismantle these terrorism networks. Thank you all.